Let's do it. Okay, awesome. All right, awesome. Yes. Welcome to, well, this is going to be my second episode of the Asian Thespians podcast. Thank you for being with us. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, my friend and colleague, Cori Menzies. Thank you for being here, Cori. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm so
Yes.
excited.
Yes. Thank you so much. You're our first guest, and we are excited to have you. And it's
Wow.
just now that we've gotten the tech issues out of the way, let's get into it. So, first off, first question or set of questions. What is your name? What are your pronouns? What is your ethnicity? And who are you?
So my name's Cori. I go by Cori. My pronouns are she, her. My ethnicity is white and Indian. And who am I? That is the question of the
Mm,
century. Um, I would consider myself as an introverted nerd who happens to like theater.
an introverted nerd who happens to like theater.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Right.
That's a very succinct answer.
I mean, I've been thinking about it for a while. Like when
Okay.
people ask me, like, who are you? I was like, who am I?
Is that just like your prepackaged answer that you feel like you can give to people now when they ask that question?
Yeah,
Nice.
honestly, yeah, it took me what almost 30 years to figure that out, but here we are.
That's a good thing to do. I should do that. What
Yeah,
is your brand? Like, oh, it's this. Here it is.
here you go.
Have it. I need to do that. We can, but that's for me to do after the show. All right. So yes. Getting into it. Like first, I would like to hear about your story. So how did you get your start in acting? What brought you to the craft?
So I actually originally wanted to be a professional dancer. I started with dancing at a very young age, and I did the whole like competitions and all of that. And then probably around 8 or 9, I auditioned for my first show, which was Annie, obviously. And kind of from there, I was like, oh, I can do all the three things that I love, which is singing, dancing, and acting. And the rest is history. I just started acting from there. I did like a bunch of youth programs at the theater. I was part of a teen company that did like a little bit more mature shows and stuff like that. Um, yeah, it kind of just happened.
Yeah. And then up through um up through college, like what was your experience there?
So I went into college for musical theater. I have my BA in musical theater. Um, Obviously did some shows. The way that our college worked is that you had to either be cast in 2 shows, and then the rest of the shows you would be on crew. So that's what ended up happening. I was actually lucky enough to be cast in 3 shows, which was great. And then the rest I would just right, I know.
Lucky or good or skilled?
um
You don't
Thinking
need to be
back,
modest on this show. This is not a
think
modest space.
thinking back to it now, I wish I had gotten more shows.
Mm,
Obviously, with any program or theater program, you're going to have your bias with certain students, and obviously, some students got more shows than other students. Um, so that's the unfortunate thing that still goes on to this day. But I am happy that the shows that I got into were shows that I actually enjoyed doing. So it could have been different, but I'm happy with the experience that I got.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like college, I obviously did the shows in college, and then after college, I kind of like took a little break, mostly because I just couldn't get into shows after auditioning. And then 2019, I started getting into shows again. And then I've been performing ever since.
Yeah. And then the pandemic happened and then nobody
Well,
was getting
yeah, and then
shows.
that thing happens.
Yeah. And then so yeah, Corey and I are just recent graduates of the Atlantic Acting School Conservatory. Yay us. Woo.
Yeah, we did it.
So yeah, so what brought you to New York for that? And well, yeah, what brought you there and like what was sort of your um I guess grind and like getting through the pandemic?
Yeah. I decided I was thinking about going back to school for a while after I graduated from college, like literally right after graduation. I was like, I should get my master's or whatever. But like just timing wise, it never happened. And also New York was always like one of the end goals for me. So when the pandemic happened, obviously things kind of went on hold. Um, so then I was like, maybe this is a good time to like start thinking about going to New York and thinking about going back to school. So my friend suggested that I audition for grad school programs through ERTA,
Mm-hmm.
which is a huge like kind of like a conference, like grad schools come and you audition all at once. And then I did it, yay me. And Atlantic was one of them, which is also something that was a place that I had like looked into anyway, uh, which I was very surprised. I was like, you want me to come to your school? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So then yeah, they were like, hey, you're accepted. And I was like, this is the perfect timing. And it just happened to work out with housing and everything like that. And I was like, yeah, this seems like the perfect time to go back to school. And after after the pandemic, like it was such a breath of fresh air to like actually go somewhere too.
Yeah. I feel exactly the same way. And we just
Yeah.
finished and we just got through it, and we don't have to reflect on that experience in this space.
a
A lot of good, some
lot of
bad.
a lot of
a
things happened.
lot of things, a lot of things, but a lot of training happened too in the last
Yes,
year, and we
yes,
have both,
absolutely.
yeah, we both definitely improved and are
Yes.
now out there. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you've already booked a show, so tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So I happened to book Greece while at school for our last semester. Even though Greece is a musical, it's still really, really nice to be booked for something, come back home and do a show. Um, Being on stage again is awesome. Um, and yeah, actually, I didn't mention this before, but I'm in another show too.
Ooh.
Yeah, surprise. It's like a thank you. It's a little one act festival. So I'm actually using the acting training that I had for Atlantic, which is really, really nice too. Um, so yeah, there's two things actually.
Amazing. What, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Is it that's a recent development?
Yes, yeah, it's a recent development.
She books.
She
She
bugs.
books. So for Greece, what theater are you in right now for that? Where's that playing?
So it's called the Ritz Theater in Sanford. It's part of the Wayne Dench Theater Company, and it's about an hour from where I live, but it's definitely worth it. And the shows are
In
the
Florida.
yeah, in Florida. Sorry. And it's the first and second weekend of October.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
And the one act show, where is that going to be at?
That's going to be in Orlando, so that's about 30 minutes from where I live.
Nice.
It's going to be at the Orlando Shakespeare Theater in like one of their little black boxes. And that's going to be in like the end of October, early November.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. What are you doing for that festival?
So the festival is actually they bring a lot of local like playwrights to write plays for them. So it's a really good way for them to showcase their work. And I happen to be in a one act called You're a Wizard, Barry. And I am playing Percy, who's essentially like the Hagrid of the play. And it's like, what would happen if you accidentally forgot to tell somebody that they're a wizard when they're like 30 years old and you try to convince them? It's hilarious. I think it's so funny. Um and yeah, it's like a little like 5 to 10 minute play. So but it's still like nice to be able to be a part of like something that a local playwright wrote and is being able to showcase it.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm sure you're gonna knock that one out of the park. I'm sure we'll be able to get maybe some vids or some pics
Oh
from
yeah,
that. Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be looking forward to that for sure. So if
We'll
you're in
do that.
Orlando around that time, you know what you need to do.
Come see me.
Awesome. But yes, congrats. hitting the ground running. We love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm brought you on today to talk about that, but also to talk about another topic that you sort of touched on at various points during our time together at Atlantic, and it was your experience in the industry as a plus size actor, which I thought was the moments I just recall our moments in class when you sort of opened up about that, and me feeling like really interested and curious about sort of what your experiences were like or have been like in the industry. So yeah, let's get into that. Well, yeah, what has your experience up to this point been as a plus size actor?
So I think it definitely starts with like when I was a dancer, when I really wanted to be a professional dancer. And I I remember like trying, like doing my best. Like, I'm not to toot my own horn, but I was a really good dancer, just saying. But the thing was is that I was a little bigger bodied than your typical dancer, as like you see. And it definitely showed like in a subtle way, like my fellow classmates would be moving up and advancing while I was kind of still staying on the same level. Um, so that was like my first like introduction to like, oh, the industry is not really that kind to people who look different. And then there was like at a very young age, like I realized, like I had a moment where I was in class and I kind of just stopped and thought to myself, like, wow, this can never happen because of the way that I look. So I did more theater because I was like, oh, this is like more inclusive and like can be more inclusive because there's so many different opportunities and stuff like that. But then I realized like I started to get the roles that were more geared towards like plus size actress and all of that. And like when you're younger, you don't really think of it. You're more like, oh my God, I got a show or whatever. But I didn't realize it until I did Beauty and the Beast Junior, and I got cast as like the wardrobe, which is like in the original Broadway production, like is an amazing role. But I do remember like reading that cast list and being like, oh, this is what people think of me. So that was like a little shock. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna continue doing it. I'm gonna continue to like stick it out and everything. Um, and then like college happened and like that's a learning environment. So, you don't really think much like in college. You think like, oh, this is how it is in the real world, which is not. That's another conversation for a different day. Um, but then after college, I started like going out for these auditions and stuff like that. And you could really tell like when you walk into a room, they're essentially like judging you based off of the way you look, and that's how they cast too. So I was going into these auditions and I'm like, they're not looking at my talent. They're not looking at like if I can sing this note or if I can act this part. They're looking at if I'm going to look good on stage.
Right.
And so that was a struggle for so many years, and that's why like at a point I was like, I'm done with acting. I don't want to do this anymore. Which was really hard. It was a hard decision. But then the pandemic happened. So I was able to have like a year to kind of reflect on everything. But like that every person is different. Like for me, that was my experience. I know some people have like worse experiences with that. I know some people are lucky. Um, but it was more of like the subtleness of it that made me like, this sucks. This no.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, yeah. You said you were a great dancer. You still are a great dancer.
Oh my God, stop.
We've seen it.
Stop.
and
Get out.
and Cori is a very talented vocalist, singer.
Oh my God, stop.
I don't know anything. Well, this is why we have this show. So we can gush all over our guests and whatnot. But I don't know about like singing ranges or whatnot, but you're in more of like the higher range, correct?
Yeah, I'm more of a soprano.
Yeah.
I like to pretend that I'm not, but I'm a soprano.
Yeah. Yeah. And I of course don't know much about that, but yeah, Cori is a musical theater specialist and dancer. So yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, what improvements have you seen, if any, since your time in the industry? Have you seen opportunities open up over the last couple years, or do you still feel like it's mostly closed off?
I've started seeing some. Um, yeah, I there was a production of Beauty and the Beast in Missouri. I'm sure some people know about this, but the lead actress, Belle, was plus size. Not only was she plus size, but she was also Black, which is also amazing.
Mhm.
So, and that was like something that the whole theater industry, like if you're a musical theater person, you knew about that production. Um, I would love to see more. I think a lot of shows on, I think the issue mostly that I have is with like Broadway
Mm.
and with some of these really big name regional theaters. Um, it's why like I always will praise community theater because they will cast no matter what. Um, and I wish regional theaters and equity theaters and all of that kind of took a page out of community theater's books.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I would love to be able to see like a new Broadway show that has plus size actors and actresses in it. Um, there's a show called Once Upon a One More Time that's supposed to be coming to Broadway. It has all Britney Spears songs, so it's already going to be good.
Nice.
They did a trial run in Washington D.C. Before the pandemic, I believe, but all the actors and actresses were plus size,
Mm.
which is amazing. But that's the only production that I've heard so far that's like that. So I think we really just need to kind of like not step up the game, but also like have more people out there that are going to be an advocate for us because that's what we really need.
Mhm. And you mentioned before, like stepping into the casting room and just sort of knowing
Yeah.
immediately, like you said, like, oh, like they're maybe they're not going to see me for
Yeah.
the lead. So yeah, can you talk a bit more about that? Like what have the things that you've been typically, I guess, cast in, and that you've seen other plus size actors be cast in, as opposed to other sizes of people, other sizes of actors?
It generally when you're a plus size actress, you're either like the supporting character or like the side character.
Mm.
You're kind of like the comedic relief character, which those roles aren't bad, but to be constantly put in that bubble and like being looked at just specifically for that and not having an open mind, that's what we kind of need to change. Now there are some productions, like there are some places. London's really good about this. Like if
Mm.
you've ever seen a London show, they're really good about being able to look at a person and say, "Oh, doesn't matter what you look like, you can sing this role perfect." So they're really good about that. Um, but I mean, it's the thing where like, why can't you have a plus size Christine? Like,
Mhm.
let's go. Why can't you have a plus size Alphaba or Glinda or whatever? Like, you can. It's possible. It's just there are producers and stuff like that that just don't want to risk it. And I think it's a good risk to take.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, mostly generally, if you're plus size, you're gonna be looked at for like the comedic relief for like the person who likes food or whatever.
Mm.
Which like, yeah, I like food, but not not so much for it to be on stage.
Yeah, and something some of the discourse that I'm also gonna um get into, because I I don't know. I feel like these issues are sort of a bit new to me.
Mhm.
um I guess you could call it like plus size phobia, what have you. And I think that and sort of issues around. I feel like these are issues that are rooted in, ableism. Something I'm gonna also talk about on this podcast is I've been doing research and learning a bit about how these things are rooted in ultimately white supremacy. Um, and sort of determining what bodies are the bodies that have value and deserve praise and are to be seen publicly, for
Yeah.
example. And this is I mean, I think anybody just who lives in the world and lives in this country, especially in theater, has sort of like empirically seen these things or
Yeah.
experienced these things. But it's definitely an important and fascinating conversation to sort of connect them to all the different like systems of oppression
Yeah.
that one would not think. Like I would not think that plus size phobia has any connection to white supremacy, but it in fact does. And yeah, seeing how kind of um, yeah, the stark contrast between roles that plus size actors get and roles that you could say skinny actors get is just it's really deafening. And yeah, I mean we haven't seen we don't really have the vocabulary yet as just a society of seeing like plus size actors in romantic roles, lead
Yeah.
roles, seeing love and um love and romance and sex between like plus
Yeah.
size people like on screen. We don't have that visual vocabulary, and when you stop and think about it for a second, it's like, wow, that's really something that's lacking a
Yeah.
lot. And it's right there and connected with issues around ableism. I feel I don't do you do you think I'm somewhere close to the mark, or what are you?
I think so. I mean, I can't really say because I am also white.
Mm,
So I know that I have a little bit more of like that privilege, I guess, because I am white. So, but at the same time, like I do know how it feels to be looked at for as something different than what people want you to see.
mhm.
So I think it is a society thing as well, because you're told your whole life like you're supposed to look a certain way, you're supposed to do a certain thing. And when you're watching TV or whatever, sometimes you do see yourself on TV, but it's not what you're supposed to see.
Mm,
And the same goes with the stage. Like I can look at a show and be like, oh, like I can see myself as a white person on stage, but I can't see myself as the size of the person that I want to be on stage. So I think there is some connectivity with that.
is there any connectivity, do you think, between your identity as a plus size person and your Asian background? Is that something that you feel like has like is present for you, or has any sort of impact? Yeah, just out of curiosity.
Um, I don't think so, because I never really considered myself as because like yeah, I am part Indian, but I know that I don't necessarily look that Indian. It's just like genes and stuff like that. Um, I mean, I've recently just started saying like, oh yeah, like really like looking into my Indian culture and everything like that. Um, but I'm also like, I know that if like there's a show that's looking for Indian actors and actresses, I could technically because that is my ethnicity, but I'm not
Mm,
because I don't look like that authentic Indian. Like there are plenty of other actors and actresses out there that are way more deserving of it than I am.
mm.
Um, but like if it's like any ethnicity or like mixed race or whatever, then hell yeah, I'll go for it. But like I know enough in my head like the roles that I should go for and the roles that I should stay away from. But I don't think, yeah, I haven't really, I actually haven't really thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up. And I think for me, I've had similar conversations as being,
Mhm.
a sometimes white passing, biracial person.
Yeah.
Um, I feel I also don't feel comfortable going out for, full Asian roles,
Yeah. Yeah.
so to speak. That's a whole huge conversation. But that's also, yeah, that's, and I don't know. I don't know if I have like answers for that right now. Like, is
Yeah.
it okay? Um is it problematic if I want to play this character, for example,
Yeah.
who's described as oh, excuse me, as being full Asian.
Yeah.
um but I don't know. I think, yeah, just kind of um touching on this topic, like, I'm hopeful that there will be more opportunities for, biracial actors
Hmm.
in
Absolutely.
general. And yeah, I think I went to a show last week, with an all Korean cast, and there was
Hmm.
biracial actors who were a part of the cast, and I was like, ah, that feels really good to see,
Hmm.
um sort of biracial people being able to like assume, I guess, like
Yeah.
full um full roles. And I would love to, yeah, hopefully in this podcast also we'll probably have a lot of time to talk about that. And it's stuff that I'm still sort of wrapping my head around.
Yeah. It's
But
a
yeah,
it's
I
a
feel
new
that.
it's a new conversation that I don't think has been really touched upon.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it's also a really good conversation to start having as well. Um, because like even though biracial is just as important as full blown like whatever your race is. Um, because that's just the way that America is as well.
Mhm.
We all come from different backgrounds and races and stuff like that. But it is generally a new conversation that needs to continue to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are certainly not here for the biracial erasure. But yeah, I, I
Yep.
I I agree. I appreciate that sort of like tentativeness, especially of being like, a white
Mhm.
person, of being like, maybe that's not for me. Because that's I think it's good to have like the two brains going.
Mhm.
So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's something that definitely resonates with me. But yeah, bringing it back to what we were, a point that you made is talking about sort of the change that you would like to see, specifically in the industry around body image. Yeah, what would that sort of look like for you?
I think you can start with, and I think regional theaters are starting to do this, is casting more inclusively in regards to like bodies and stuff like that. Um, I mean, I'm very lucky with the fact that for Greece, we have all sorts of sizes, which is amazing to see. So, again, take a page out of the community theaters books and realize that there are just as talented people who are plus size that can do these roles. And I think we need to get rid of the stigma that plus size actresses are lazy and stuff like that, because we're really not. I mean, like I said, I was a dancer for like 15 years and I can still move and keep up with the choreography. And there are plenty of other people out there that can do the same thing. Um, and then there are also plenty of plus size actresses that uh, are amazing. Like Bonnie Mulligan, who's going to be in Kimberly Akimbo on
Mm,
Broadway. She's probably one of my biggest like idols because not only is she plus size, but she's like killing it at the game. So that is definitely like when that goes to Broadway, that is definitely a start. And I really hope people look at that show and say, oh, like maybe we should do more of this and have more inclusive, like be more inclusive, because I feel like that will also help audiences as well, like with their revenue and stuff.
mhm.
Um, like for a business perspective as well. Um, yeah, I think we just need to kind of start like calling. I think it goes to the fact like you need to start calling these theaters out and stuff
Mm,
like that, which I know some people are doing. Um, it just needs to be a little bit more of it.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that sounds awesome. And I think I'm reflecting on how, like you said about Broadway, like Broadway is the most problematic, you would say, because
Oh
they
yeah.
really I guess don't believe that, because so they're so invested into what they already know can sell,
Yeah.
that they're not looking to deviate from that. And since it is so commercially driven,
Yeah.
they're not willing to take risks. But yeah, I
I,
mean,
I think the best example of that is with Funny Girl.
mm,
So Beanie was cast as Fanny, and she is a plus size actress. She's also hilarious. Um, but when she was cast as that, society didn't like it.
mm,
And when they were in previews and stuff like that, the critics were terrible to her.
right.
And the marketing was terrible for that show. Beanie was supposed to like, I think she was supposed to be in this show till like the end of the year or something. Like that's what her contract was. But she left early. And I don't blame her because people didn't treat her right because she looked different.
Right.
But you also have to remember with like these shows and stuff, Fanny Bryce like is a real person, and she wasn't known for her singing or whatever. She was known as her like comedy. Like she was a like funny person. So then now Leah Michelle is Fanny. And I'm not saying Leah Michelle isn't a bad singer. Like she's fantastic. But at the same time, she's also
Heard a
she
lot of
looks
bad things about Leah Michelle. Sorry.
well, here we go. It she like I'm not saying like she is a good singer,
Mm,
but the point of Funny Girl is not the singing, it's the story. And I also think that's what Broadway is lacking. They're so focused on who can belt the highest and who looks the best or whatever. And it's not about the story anymore. It's like you're going to a concert rather than a show. Um, but yeah, like that, Funny Girl is like a perfect example of it.
yeah. And I tend to believe that audiences audiences are human beings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of the audiences, um well, hopefully, well, I guess that's not true, because a lot of, typically most Broadway audiences are like white, middle, upper class.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
but in a general sense, just in like sort of like a broader scope, like, audiences for movies, for TV, for
Mm-hmm.
everything, are human beings. And it would be, we need to obviously create stories and show people and human beings that reflect the audiences who are watching them.
Yeah.
um and I'm always constantly, especially these days, like when I get into my own limiting beliefs of like, oh, I'll never be cast because I'm um a biracial actor or whatnot. Not to center myself in this, but just the examples of like box office like surprises, when it's
Mm-hmm.
like Black Panther, for example, when it's like
Oh yeah.
people thought, oh, there's no way a movie like with a primarily Black cast, a Marvel movie, is going to do well, and it fucking knocked it out of the park. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like the industry really thinks that audiences do not want to see like real human being, not, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but all of the colors and sizes of the rainbow.
Yeah.
But we actually do, like, we actually
Oh
crave
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I mean, just adding my 2 cents, like hopefully once, you know Broadway and Hollywood or whatever can sort of see that um there's opportunities there, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
will open up opportunities then for plus size actors. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
how's that landing on you?
I agree. I think it's an effort of the audience as well as the people that are in the industry. Because if you have the audience on your side, then it'll be a little bit easier for on the industry side.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely like we have to work together. We all have to work together for it. And we have to like somewhere within the separation bring it together. Um, I mean, I'm hoping that it happens sooner rather than later. But if it's later, hey, at least it's happening.
And you mentioned before, like holding theaters accountable and holding
Yeah.
like the businesses themselves accountable and saying, hey, like you don't cast plus
Mm-hmm.
size actors in X, Y, and Z roles, which I think is like a great, that sounds like a great approach.
Oh yeah.
What else do you think can be done to sort of shift the status quo as we move along here?
Um, I I think like the calling theaters out is going to be the biggest impact that you can have. You could also like, I know a lot of people say like, oh well, I'm just going to start my own theater company, which is also a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or like get involved in a way that if you want to be a director for a show, you have the cast, like you are part of the casting decision and you basically have the final word. I mean, like producers do too, but you can advocate for different people, which is exactly what happened with Grease. Um, I think also, I really do think like being able to call out theaters and stuff like that is going to have the biggest impact because that is also a great way to get the word around to the audience. And then the audience is going to share it. And I mean, like Facebook is literally share central.
Mm-hmm.
So, and same with Twitter. That I think that's the easiest way to get the word out. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are some of the plus size actors that we need to know about? You've mentioned a couple already. Who else
Uh,
comes to mind?
definitely, yeah, I definitely said Bonnie Mulligan. There, oh my gosh, what is her name? She just got cast in Into the Woods. She's a little red.
Mm,
Hold on. I'm blanking on her name.
that's okay. Take your time and look it up.
Oh my God.
We've got all the time in the world.
I'm so I'm so offended that I don't know this.
I'm
Well,
offended.
there's also the previous person who was Little Red for Into the Woods is Julia Lester.
Mm-hmm.
She's also a plus size actress. She's in High School Musical, the series. She is fantastic. Highly suggest you go watch her in that show. Um, oh my God, what is her name? Katie. Her name is Katie. I know that her first name is Katie. She's also another plus size actress from London who is in another show that I love called Anne Juliet, which is also coming to Broadway. Um, I feel like there's so many different. Um, there's Chloe Hart, who is in the UK production of Six. She plays Catherine Aragon. She's also amazing. Um, those are just a couple that I can think of the top of my head. But I would obviously love to be able to like list more than five. I would love to be able to list like at least 20 more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I guess one thing that we didn't get into, and maybe we don't have time for today, but um yeah, just opening opportunities for plus size people
Yeah.
of all genders.
Oh
Um
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but in your experience, do you feel like the market has been more closed for like plus size women? Has that kind of been your experience, or how do you think that
I think it's both. I think it's women and men.
mhm,
Because yeah, I definitely think it's women and men that are like that. I think men probably have a little bit easier time because
mm,
there's not a lot of men in the industry.
mhm,
But at the same time, I do think it does come down to like, is this man gonna fit the role of a hero? And then obviously with women, are they gonna fit the role of the heroine or
mhm.
the ingenue or whatever? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, we don't see like plus size male actors or
Yeah.
male identifying actors and whatnot occupying lead roles typically.
Oh yeah,
occupying
yeah.
romantic roles. We don't see that either. Yeah, it's just having this conversation, like, wow, there's so much, there's like so much opportunity, so much work to be done.
Oh yeah.
It's it's a lot, right?
Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's still so much work to do, but we can do it.
Yeah. I was also thinking, because of course we both like K-pop, and I'm sure you'll certainly resonate with this, but um, so Twice, one of our favorite girl groups,
Yeah.
um, they have one of their members is her name is Jungyeon,
Mhm.
and she's right here actually. Hello. And yes, she is an incredible story for our listeners who don't know about K-pop, but will soon after listening to my podcast. Um, like she was very skinny for many many years, and then recently, like during the pandemic, or like has as she's aged, has um gone from very very skinny to what is now considered in K-pop plus sized, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not going to be the one to measure measure those things, but she's like, K-pop is an industry where it's like so
Yeah.
driven by skinny people and
Yeah.
skinniness, and so much plus size phobia,
Mhm.
to an extreme. And Jung Young really stands out for how she looks in her body. And I remember I've kind of like followed her journey, and as this was going on, and it's been such a like a strange thing where like they did it, like her company didn't know if they could even like present her, like will she be able to dance, can she do the choreography, how do we dress her? And at first, because she actually left the group for like a while because of like mental health issues, and I'm sure that this was a big part of it,
Yeah.
undoubtedly. And she came back with like this new body, and there was this huge reaction. And at first when she came back, they were dressing her in these, like, trying to cover her up essentially, and like these really kind of like strange outfit choices.
Mhm.
But like as time went on, and I know because I know from just the conversations that I've heard and been a part of that, of course, like she was the victim of like so much cyberbullying and all of this plus size phobia,
Yeah.
and experiencing that. But um like as she started to perform again, and as she went on tour, right? And there was this big thing about, is she going to be able to go on tour? Like, can't,
Yeah.
like, is it going to happen? And as she went on tour, and especially um this last tour they did in the United States, like she knocked it out of the fucking park, and
Mhm.
she got by far the biggest ovations out of any of the members, like
Yeah.
by far. In every single city, it was like when they introduced the members, it was like massive applause. And then for Jonghyun, it was just like the roof like came off
Yeah.
every time she like sang on stage, every time she appeared, every time she talked. It was like massive, massive support. And it was extremely moving,
Mhm.
to kind of witness and be a part of. Um yeah, and you could see like her confidence like start to grow, because
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of doubt, and she shared that there was a lot of doubt before going on this tour. So anyways, not I digress. But yeah, and it was, yeah, it was fucking awesome. And now, like, I guess a year later, they're dressing her in ways that are like, she are like, they're showing how like beautiful she is,
Mhm.
and they're not trying to cover her up. They're trying to like, they're just letting her live, you know what I mean? Letting
Yeah.
her sort of like exist in her natural body, which I think is just incredible. And it's shown like audiences audiences are human beings,
Mhm.
again, from all colors and all sizes, and they want to see more representation. They want to see
Yeah.
performers and people who look like them, and share their experiences. So that's just a small kind of like, I guess, maybe case study
Oh yeah.
into this. Yeah, I don't know. That's I just wanted to share that because it gave it, at least some, as like a witness to this, sort of gave some hope
Yeah.
that, yeah. How do you feel about that?
I think that's definitely something that we should look at. Um, I mean, another person that comes to mind with me is Brendan Fraser as well.
Mm,
Um, like protect him at all costs.
Right.
But you're right, audiences are humans, and being able, like, I don't know how many times I've watched like videos with him in it. Like he gained all this weight for his role in The Whale, but people love him for who he is, not the way that he looks.
Right.
So if we can like look at that example, like look at both of those examples and be like, oh, like people really just like people because of who they are as a person.
Right.
Like that is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, and I know that the capitalistic aspect of it is
Yeah.
not like the goal,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's proof that like, yeah, like this can, you're gonna be able to make money
Oh yeah. Oh
showing
yeah.
having plus size actors in these roles,
There
and you might even
yeah.
make more fucking money. You know what
Oh
I
yeah,
mean?
100%.
Absolutely. And like I said, like that shouldn't be the goal. Like the goal should be to create a society where it's just people can exist,
Yeah.
and not have to face prejudice. But this is, I mean, yeah, like I think we've named like a lot of ways where we can start to see a shift, at least from an
Oh yeah.
industry standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, well, thank you for this amazing conversation.
Thank you.
I don't before I don't, yeah, I don't want to take up all of your day, but yeah, how do the listeners get in touch with you? What are your social media contacts?
So on Instagram, it is Cori with a C. It's CoriWithac. And then on Twitter, I am Coriander. Uh, yep. It's Cori underscore Ander 28. Yeah, you can find me on those two places. I post a lot of opinions on Twitter. So if you like that, I also share a lot of like nerd stuff and occasionally K-pop stuff on there as well. And then Instagram is Instagram.
Yes. Did you say your TikTok?
Oh no. That
Don't
is
forget TikTok.
Cori period Ander 28.